a few years ago, people panicked when Toyota floated the idea of a hybrid Innova, but now everyone is buying it in the form of this, the Toyota Zenix Q hybrid. And we finally have it here with us. Let's check it out. So as you already know, the Toyota Zenix is actually the third generation of the very popular and for other people legendary Toyota Innova. But people still wanted the second generation. People still want a diesel, so Toyota decided to keep the Innova as the second generation and the Zenix as the current or as the third generation sold together. And as I told you, this is the Zenix Q HEV, the top spec variant, and it's priced at 1,991,000 pesos. And let's go on with how it looks, because this is actually set apart from the V variant pretty nicely. So while the overall look is the same, we do have the addition of these LED strips for the daytime running lights on both sides, of course. Same bumper design and, well, pretty much the same front fascia, multi-reflector LED headlights over there, and also LED turn signals, which are also here. So we lose the halogen turn signals here, thankfully, because that is actually a pretty good idea. Also, the overall design, the Zenix does look so much more premium than the Innova. It does look, well, it has a lot more road presence while still keeping the familiar Innova design cues, and that's something that most people really like. Then follow me here to the side. We have here for the Q hybrid variant exclusive these 18-inch alloy wheels, and they're wrapped in Dunlop SP Sport Max tires, and they just look so much more premium, which is also something that's really nice. Although they do look a bit weird because, well, they look small for some reason. Those are 18s, but they look really small, and it's probably because of these, the black cladding that we have here. This is also for the hybrid only, and you don't get that on the V, so I don't know, but most people change their wheels and they do look really nice when changed. Also, the hybrid badge right here. We have our side mirror, which is still the same as the old one, and the Fortuner and Hilux, so Toyota did recycle that for this generation. And, well, the side, it's very slab side. You can see it's very big. You can really see that the Zenix is much bigger, or, well, not much bigger, but bigger definitely compared to the Innovas. And here at the back, you can see that it's basically the same as the non-hybrid version, except for a few things. So first, of course, we have the Q and the hybrid badge, but the overall look is the same, the very Toyota Rush-like design here. So LED tails, they look very nice at night, by the way. And our Innova Zenix badge right here. Then you do have a power tailgate right there, and it does open at a very decent speed, although the beeping is very annoying. And you can see we have our stuff right here, so we still do have a very good amount of space, which is one reason you'd like to get an Innova or the Innova Zenix. So let's just put this down. Well, it's stuck. Just cut it, but okay. But yeah, so fold this third row seats down, and you have a very flat load floor, which we can now spread out our stuff and make the most of this cargo area. Well, not the biggest stuff, but you know, it works. And also, so underneath we do have some storage right there. So also our headrest, which I mentioned, which I will show you what this is for later. And yeah, we can now check out the interior. So you must be wondering why I'm bent down like this, but it's actually because we have a spare tire for the Zenix. So it's down here. It's a steel wheel, not a full size, but again, compared to most hybrids now, well, it's something to be thankful for if you have any form of spare tire. And now we're inside the Toyota Zenix Q HEV. So it's basically the same as the V that I showed you. Like, unlike the exterior, which does show a little bit of a difference, this one is almost the same inside. So the basic overall design is the same. The color scheme is the same, so it's brown and black. I think they call this chestnut. And then the design is basically a mix of the Toyota Hiace and the Toyota Land Cruiser 300 with the upright design here, the layered dash design. So yeah, that all looks pretty good. The main difference here are the seats. So as you can see, we now have leather seats. So it's a very nice leather material. It's not the most premium, but that's expected in this segment, and it does feel pretty nice, perforated, and we do have a pattern as well that does feel nice. Driver's seat is also now power adjustable, as you can see, so that is very helpful. Passenger side still manual. And the other stuff here, so the gauges are slightly different because again, this is the hybrid, so it has a blue and green color scheme now. I do prefer the black and white scheme that we have on the non-hybrid variant, and I think that same there, it is getting very dated. So honestly, it looks very out of place in this car because this is still fairly new and the gauges look like they came from like, I don't know, 2015 or something. So that is not very nice. The addition here is the hybrid display, of course, which we'll talk about more on the road. And other stuff, so we of course still have a tilt and telescopic steering wheel. Very nice to have. A lot of adjustment, they're actually surprising. And we have our controls as well for our Toyota safety sense on the right. So we have our adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, or what they call lane tracing control. And also on the left, our audio controls. And speaking of audio, we have the same 10.1-inch touchscreen infotainment system. And by this time, I've had a lot of time to tinker with it, and I must say that, well, no filter, I hate this infotainment system so much. But yeah, it does work pretty fine, I guess. The layout is pretty easy, and once you are on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, wireless by the way for CarPlay, it will work pretty fine. But again, if you are just using the home, the main system itself, it's not the best. Our 360 cam appears here, and well, it's very un-Toyota because, well, first, you cannot control anything on the screen when that's on. You have to use the button here on the left to switch through the different displays, and that's quite unfortunate. And also the angles aren't the best, the resolution is very bad, and there are no settings. So one thing that I hate is that every time you're going low speeds, it does keep appearing, which I really dislike. I just wish that they would let you just choose when to use it, of course, and also when you're in reverse. Then anyway, moving down here, we have some controls here, so that's nice. So we have a volume button, power button, and stuff. Down here, our single zone automatic climate control. Hard buttons are very nice to have, of course. I'd prefer a knob, but this works definitely better than just going the all touch route. Then our shifter, very big, very prominent right there in the middle. We do have a sport mode and manual shifting, so that is nice to have in a hybrid. We also have our electronic parking brake, auto hold, drive mode selector, our EV mode, which you will barely use, but more on that again later. USB ports down here, A and C, so you can see that I'm plugged in right now, and it does stick out like a sore thumb, but yeah, at least we do have USB-C ports. 2 cup holders, our phone is right there, and here a storage area, so it can only be opened from the driver's side. And also Toyota gave us a new wireless phone charger inside of that. And one thing I did forget to mention are the materials in here, because these are a huge upgrade compared to the Innovas of old. So we have soft touch materials on the dashboard, so it is rough and not real leather, but it does feel pretty nice. Hard touch plastics here, but they do feel of good quality. And on the door panel, lots of soft touch materials as well, so it's a huge step up compared to before. We also have some storage, or rather some cup holders on the dashboard. Of course, every Innova owner likes that, so the Zenix still keeps that there. More storage on the passenger side of the dashboard, and also our visibility is actually quite nice. So we have huge windows, huge windshield all around. It's very easy to see out. Also have this little window here on this portion, which is really nice. It really helps with visibility. But excellent visibility aside, the back seat is the best place to be here in the Innova Zenix, because just like the V, we still have a pair of captain seats, but this one takes it up a notch with power ottomans. So that's one thing that we add here. It makes it a more comfortable place to be in. And we also have power recline, so this is definitely gonna be more of a, well, you need to have a driver if you're gonna be using one of these, but of course you can still drive it yourself if you want to. One thing though is that legroom, and or rather footroom, will be a bit more limited because we do have the hybrid battery, I think, located under the front seat, so that does eat into the space. If you're on the passenger side or on the right side, it's much better, but if you're gonna be behind the driver, well, it'll depend on how nice your driver is, or if he's small and needs his seat up. So you can see that I can't put my feet under the driver's seat. But anyway, other stuff here is basically the same as the V as well. So we have 2 USB-C ports down there. We have our aircon controls, auto mode, fan speed, and we have our mood lighting control, which we have the mood lights over here. Very nice. And you can see that they're designed for a panoramic sunroof, so that is what is lacking here. I think that they should have at least offered it here on the Q variant, just to set it apart from the V more. And also we have the center tray, of course, so storage and 2 cup holders. Very nice to have that as well, and very easy to use. And well, it's not a Zenix if you don't use the third row, so let's check that out. So to get to the third row, well, Sam already did it for us, so you can move the seat forward and recline it forward as well. That makes it easier. And also you have steps down there, which make it easier to get to the third row. But for me, I'm already here, so let's just cross, which you can also do if you're a bit lazy. And once you are here in the third row, so for someone like me at 5 feet and 7 inches, it does work. So legroom is a bit tight and knee room is a bit tight, but do note that I do have the second row seat a bit moved back, so we can move it forward and without sacrificing too much space for our second row passenger. So we can actually, well, there's this also, so we can do it ourselves. So you can actually do that yourself. And now I have loads of space back here, which actually is really nice. Also, this space is for 3 people actually. So we have a headrest that goes here to the center, it's right there at the back. But yeah, so the third row is actually designed for 3 people. This is a 7-seater, not a 6-seater. So what stuff we have here, some storage, 12-volt power outlet, 2 cup holders on the left and another 2 on the right. So for 4 people actually. So yeah, that's all aircon vent right there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the third row. Best reserved for 2 people, not 3, but yeah, they want you to have a third passenger here anyway. And now we're on the road with the Toyota Zenix Q HEV, and it's actually my first time to try this out for a longer period of time. I've only done around the block test drives so far since this was launched in a few years ago. So let's start with the powertrain. So this still gets a 2-liter gasoline engine just like the V variant, but this time it's paired to an electric motor and nickel metal hydride or NIMH battery. So that's good for a combined output of 186 horsepower and 188 newton meters of torque just from the gasoline engine. So again, combined both electric motor and gasoline engine, 186 horsepower. So it's not as much as what you would get on the V variant, but still, it's more than what you would get in the turbo diesel, the 2.8 liter, which the previous generation Innova, which you can still get now, has. And by the way, if you are not a fan of electrification and you still want the diesel, well, by all means, go for the Innova turbo diesel because no one's stopping you. But if you value the efficiency and well, the better refinement, this is definitely gonna be for you because, well, for starters, it's much more comfortable. It's very comfortable to drive. That's what the Innova Zenix is aiming for sure. So again, of course, with the hybrid powertrain, it's gonna be very refined. There's no gasoline engine rumble when you're coming from a stop, when you're stopped in traffic, when you are moving slowly, or sometimes when you're driving inside the city, the gasoline engine remains off. And given that it doesn't have that much horsepower and that much torque, it's actually very smooth, so which really helps with the comfort. So let's go back to the powertrain again, how this does. So it's very responsive, which you would expect from anything electrified these days. It is a bit on the slower end compared to other hybrid systems that we get to experience with other brands, but yeah, again, this is comfort oriented, so really you're not supposed to be taking this on drag races anyway. It's an MPV after all. And one feature that these Toyota hybrids do have is the EV mode. So the button, as you saw earlier, is also here in the center console, and it will be very useful, especially when you're driving in low city speeds. So one thing though is that it won't be working most of the time, so you need to have your battery full charge, which you will barely get if you are just driving inside the city. But if you're driving in the highway like us right now, you will find that the battery will be charging more often, and after this you will find the chance to be able to at least use the EV mode. And again, it only works at lower speeds, so sometimes if you are accelerating harder or what, it will just deactivate because you are stepping on the accelerator too much. So you have to be light-footed and you have to be very careful. You have to be very efficient in the way that you drive to be able to use the EV mode properly. Let's go back to comfort now. And well, ride quality is, well, it's admittedly a bit stiffer, a bit firmer compared to the turbo diesel Innova, but that's for good reason because the Innova was admittedly, well, a bit bouncy, a bit wallowy at times, but that did give us a very smooth ride. Here it's a bit stiffer, but it's more balanced. So this now rides on a crossover platform, shares its platform with the Corolla Cross, and well, it feels like one. So this is basically like driving a larger Corolla Cross. And also, well, there are stuff that need to be improved for sure, and that's NVH insulation because, well, tire noise is quite loud. So considering this only has 21,000 kilometers, I'm guessing that the tires should not be that worn to be this loud. So it's probably just really a problem with NVH insulation. Then you can also hear the outside noises quite a lot, especially when you're stuck inside city traffic and there are a lot of jeepneys, motorcycles around you. Yeah, that does tend to come into the cabin. Also, there are a lot of rattles in this cabin when you're driving on bumpy roads. You can really hear everything. I don't know why. I told you that earlier, that it does feel really good, but that's only upon touch. But once you are on, well, not exactly good roads, it does tend to be a bit poor when it comes to just how it sounds here inside the cabin. But you can drown that out with the audio system anyway, which, well, like I mentioned also, it could be improved, but yeah, you can drown it out with that anyway. But when you are seated at the back, well, you're gonna be feeling a bit isolated anyway, because it is a comfortable place to be in. And well, the ride quality is decent compared to the Innova. It's a bit more balanced. And that takes us to handling, because despite it having those captain seats at the back, which are of course, like I mentioned earlier, the best seats in the house, it's still a very good vehicle to drive. Again, it's very comfortable. The steering is so much lighter compared to the Innova. I've shown you that in the Zenix V. And well, the handling aspect, well, it still feels good. So the location of the battery does help this become a more stable vehicle. And once you are going higher speeds, the vehicle does remain very planted. Taking corners, it will remain very planted, which helps your passengers because no one will feel nauseous when you are driving this, for sure. And if you're comparing this with the V variant, well, the brakes will feel a bit different because, of course, this being a hybrid, it comes with the regenerative braking system. So it doesn't really do much when it comes to that, but you will feel the difference, a slight difference in how the brake feel. There is a little bit more artificial feeling, but really with all the hybrids and all the electric cars these days, it's something that you really won't mind anymore. It's just really a quest for looking for that vehicle that has the most realistic braking feel. And also, another thing I'd like to mention is that I showed you earlier, we do have our manual modes for our gears. So we also have paddle shifters actually, so you can actually use that to switch between gears. So we have actually 6 virtual gear ratios from our ECVT here, and that helps with, well, one, regenerative braking, and of course engine braking when you are driving downhill. And that's something that will give you a more realistic driving feel, that it feels less artificial compared to other electrified vehicles on our market, and that's something nice to have. It's actually surprising that we have it here in the Zenix. I wish that Toyota does put that in something like the Corolla Cross. Then now, of course, hybrid fuel economy is key, or an important aspect of this vehicle. So in mixed driving conditions, both city and highway, we are able to achieve around 21 kilometers per liter, which is actually a really good number. And that's also considering that this is, after all, a 7-seater MPV. Usually with its larger size and probably heavier weight, heavier mass, you're gonna expect lower numbers, but this one's still capable of giving you really good fuel economy numbers, and that's really what's important here. It's definitely better than what you would get in the diesel. And also, this being the Q hybrid variant, we do have our suite of Toyota Safety Sense Advanced Driver Assist systems. So just like in any other Toyota model, this is still one of the best in the industry. So the lane keep assist does work very well, the lane tracing assist, and it's just steers, it really traces the lane as well how you would expect it should perform. And the adaptive cruise control feels very natural, so it's really all good in that regard. And also, I forgot to mention earlier that I showed you the 360 camera, which isn't really the best, well, far from the best. And well, if you mix that with the not so good infotainment system, it does have the tendency to bug. So one time I was driving and it was stuck on the 360 cam with some weird settings that just randomly appeared, and to get it out of the way, I had to turn off and on the vehicle. Thankfully, it was traffic at that time. So anyway, Toyota Zenix Q hybrid, should you choose this over the non-hybrid variants or even the previous generation Innova, which you can still buy to this day? And well, look at the road. These are everywhere, and that definitely says a lot about the adoption of this vehicle by other people. And well, whether you are looking for a vehicle for your family or a rather low-key vehicle that won't really catch attention but still give you enough luxuries, I guess, in terms of comfort and then of course fuel economy, then this is definitely one vehicle that you should choose. Again, like I mentioned in the start of this video, people panic at the thought of a hybrid Innova, but when this came out, it seems that it's still doing very well, and the Toyota Innova nameplate is definitely safe when it comes to the future, especially with all the electrification.